Hello, my name is Liz and welcome to the Tiny Treatery. And today I'm going to be making a small 2-layer chocolate cake. Artistically, my most beautiful creation of all time was my 2-layer red velvet cake. And ever since then, I've been afraid to try to make a little 2-layer cake again, because whatever part of me was awakened when I made that cake and enabled me to make such a flawless beauty, I don't know if I will be able to awaken that part of me again. So quit while you're ahead, right? But I'm facing my fears today and I'm going to try to make another adorable 2-layer cake. So I will show the recipe on screen now, both with the original yield and the tiny yield, and meet you in the kitchen. Welcome to the kitchen. This recipe consists of all-purpose flour, cocoa powder, sugar, baking soda, baking powder, salt, espresso powder, vegetable oil, egg, vanilla, buttermilk, or in my case, lemon juice mixed with regular milk to make substitute buttermilk, and freshly brewed strong hot coffee. I am using instant coffee because that's what I have, so whatever. But the recipe says you can just use hot water if you don't want to use coffee, so I assume this will at least be more flavorful than just using plain water. So first things first, let's get measuring. Okay, everything's measured out. Time to make the batter. First, preheat, then whisk up all the dry ingredients, which includes flour, cocoa powder, sugar, baking soda, baking powder, salt, and espresso powder. Then mix together the oil, vanilla, eggs, and my makeshift buttermilk until nice, smooth, and combined. Pour those wet ingredients into the dry ingredients, add in the hot coffee, mix until the batter is completely combined, and then I will be pouring it into these 2 4-inch cake pans, which I have already prepared with parchment paper. So let's get mixing. Not off to a great start because the batter is so thin, it is leaking through the cake pan that has a removable bottom. I need to get another 4-inch pan that matches the one that does not have a removable bottom, and that will also help when it comes to making sure that any future 2-layer cakes have the same dimensions, because it's pretty much a gamble right now with these pans that are not quite the same size. I put them on a baking sheet when I put them in the oven so that any leakage is caught. But I don't know if that's gonna like burn up, I don't know. I feel we are off to a terrible start in my attempt to match the glory that was my red velvet cake. So in the meantime, while they're baking for 23 to 26 minutes, we'll wash these dishes and So they're out. Did have some leaking issues, and it also seems the parchment is cutting into the cake here. So I'm gonna let them cool a little bit and then take them out of their pans, see what it's like, see what the damage is, and go from there. Okay, so we have our cakes here. They're very soft, which is good probably for eating purposes, but I think it could present some problems when removing them and also trying to ice them up. They might be a little too warbly, but let's see what we can do. Doing the easy one first. Man. Yeah. See how moist and soft this is? And it's also kind of uneven on the top, but we'll see how it goes. Gonna wrap this in plastic. And now for the scary one. Oh no. No, 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 no. Oh dear. Good gracious. Oh no. So I'm gonna freeze them for a while before I do any decorating. So obviously the one with the pop out bottom had some issues with its structure. So that's the bad news. But the good news is that means I can eat these leftover bits that didn't come out on the layer. Interesting. So I guess my plan is to freeze them and then do my best to use frosting to cover up the blemishes and imperfections of the cake layers. That'll probably be tomorrow because I don't want to do it right now. We'll see. I'm back and I've put out the ingredients for the chocolate buttercream that I'm going to be making to decorate this cake. It's 8:55 at night, so for the first time in a long time, I didn't wait until the next day to get something done in a video. But quiet hours start at 10 p.m. in my apartment building. So I'm cutting it a little close. I feel like a little bit of a dick, but I'm gonna get this buttercream made before 10 p.m. so that legally nobody can complain. So let's whip up some icing. And in case you care, the chocolate buttercream consists of butter, powdered sugar, cocoa powder, and then a little bit of salt and vanilla and heavy whipping cream to get the consistency that I want. I'll put the amounts on screen now if you care. But I'm sure that you didn't. Welcome back. Now let's whip up the icing. So here's the chocolate buttercream. Maybe a little much, but oh well. So now it's time to try to do the crumb coat with my warbly flawed layers. And hopefully I can fill all the cracks and crevices and end up with something smooth and perfect. But I don't know, my hopes are not high. So clearly I did a little bit more than a crumb coat, got a little too into it, and I just kept forging on, and I did the main outer coat of the frosting, and then I did the little shell border on the bottom. But I'm sleepy now because it's 11 p.m. So gonna pop this baby in the fridge and then put the finishing touches on tomorrow and do the taste test. Hello, it's the next day and it's time to finish decorating this little cake. I have some buttercream left over and I'm gonna use some of that, and I'm gonna make a chocolate ganache. And for those of you who are wondering, because I was, ganache is a glaze, icing, sauce, or filling for pastries made from chocolate and cream. Ganache is one of those words where I hear it used a lot, but I never really knew what it was, and it turns out it's incredibly simple. So I just have to warm up some heavy whipping cream and then mix in some chopped chocolate until I have the consistency I want. And I'm not going to tell you what I'm using it for, but you can probably guess. So I guess the final montage here is going to be me actually making this ganache and then doing the final decorating on the cake. Let's decorate! Here is the finished product. Obviously, the ganache drip is not all that smooth. Could have been done a little better. That's definitely the fault of me remaking the ganache so that it was thicker, and then it ended up being too thick. So SMH at me for making that decision. So I'll do a little plating montage of me cutting into it, and then we will reconvene at the taste test table. Okay, time for the taste test. First though, comments on the overall result, appearance-wise. I feel like relative to my tiny 2-layer red velvet cake, this one is visually maybe more impressive because the drip looks fancy, there's the swirls on top, there's like more going on, so it's like at a first glance it might be more impressive, but I personally think that this did not turn out as good as the tiny 2-layer red velvet cake. That one was very crisp and clean. This one is a little messy. The ganache was too thick. It did not drip as smoothly as I had hoped. And the top of the ganache, you could see, as I showed before, there's like a lot of ridges and imperfections that would not be present on a prose drip cake. So it's pretty cool. I'm pretty proud of it. As a relative beginner, I think I did a good job, but I am not nearly as infatuated with this one as I was with the red velvet cake visually. However, taste-wise, the red velvet cake fell flat. It was a little dry. I don't think that this one's going to have a dryness problem because it is excessively moist just by looking at it and poking it. So let's do it. Enough dilly-dallying. I don't know where to go in because I want to get some of the ganache too, but I don't want to be overwhelmed with frosting. Brought my mirror to be sure I don't have any schnibblings all over my face like a toddler. Yeah, that's delectable. Trying to isolate the elements right now. The cake by itself, moist, tasty. When I tried the bits out of the pan and I was like, interesting. It was like a little weird, but I don't know. Maybe after having sat for a while, it's better, but yeah, it tastes really good now. The chocolate buttercream, also good. Aftertaste is like a little much, a little weird. I don't know. It's not my favorite part. I like the cake better than the frosting. but the frosting is still good. And normally with regular buttercream, I'm always like a little bit off put by the butter taste in it, but this is better than that for me. Can't really isolate the ganache, but I'll try. Okay, for the ganache, I don't know if this is a universal feature of all ganache, so I used gourmet milk chocolate candy melts from the Vermont nut-free chocolate brand. I personally do not like those as much as their non-gourmet versions. I don't know, there's something about the gourmet flavor of it all that I find to be a little off-putting, but they didn't have the regular ones in stock when I was trying to refill my candy melt jars, so I just got the fancy ones, and I honestly like them less, so at least I learned that. But anyway, the ganache tastes exactly like those do, and I don't really like the flavor of that much, but I think what that hopefully would mean is that if I wanted to make a drip cake again, if I used a chocolate that I really like the flavor of, then the ganache drip would taste exactly like that chocolate. So even though this variety, not the best, I think that's good news for future ganache endeavors. So even though last week was supposed to be the week where I made something that blew my mind and was the tastiest thing ever, I think this week blows that week out of the water in terms of taste. The cake, I think, is the best part, but the frosting and ganache are a nice addition, a nice bonus experience to what's going on in your mouth with the flavors or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a culinary expert, obviously. So since this tasted so good, it might beat out the tiny red velvet cake for overall experience. Not quite as good visually, but much better taste-wise. So this might be the new crowned winner in terms of tiny Treatery 4-inch 2-layer cakes, of which there are 2. But hopefully in the future there will be more amazing creations. And if you want to see them, thanks for watching and subscribe for more baking adventures.